My name is Kristen. I am on our support team, and I've been with Houzz for a little over 5 years now. So I'm excited to get to present with you guys today and share a little bit about our Houzz Pro system. I'll be taking us through kind of the meat and potatoes of what Houzz Pro is for your project management. So I'll go through estimates, invoices, change orders, POs, and your payments. So a lot of important things. So I'll try and make this really fun for us. So we saw how to create a project earlier. I'm going to go into one of my projects here, and I'll go into our estimate tab. And the great thing is all of our projects have the same layout in Houzz Pro, so I can see overview, messages, timeline, and estimates. So no matter what project I'm on, I'll always know where to find this. And estimate is just that. It's an estimate. It's an idea of what we think this project or this phase is going to cost my client. So there can definitely be changes down the road. We'll account for those a little bit later, but the estimate is just that great first document to send off, kind of have both me and my client on the same page of what we think all the different parts of the project will cost. And you guys can see on the right, we have all of these numbers too. So these are already formulated by Houzz for me. So I can see my total estimated cost for my project, material, labor, markup, and tax. So those numbers are quickly right there on the right-hand side. So I can just kind of get a quick glimpse into what my project totals are looking like so far. And I have my full list of all of my estimates here. So I can see my bathroom estimate, hallway. It'll give me the code, total, the due date, status, and the date that it was created. So that's just kind of a quick overview of what our estimate tab looks like. And to get us started, I'll click on New Estimate in the top right corner. We have a few options here. So I can go from scratch, which would just be that, just total blank canvas. I can upload a template that I already created outside of Houzz, or I can go from template. So we have this available to our GC users. We have 18 already created templates that you can use. They have tons of parts, items, costs, and everything already associated with them. And I already have a few at the top as well. So I'll show you how to do this in a little bit, but it's just going to allow me to create my own custom templates. So if I like the bathroom template in Houzz, but I might want to make a few changes, I can save that as my new template. So it'll be something that I can use over and over again. And for today, I'll go and choose our bathroom template, click save, and that'll allow me to begin working on my estimate. And I know our zip code in our project is really important. That's going to show all of the prices in this new template that I'm working on. So just make sure when I begin working in the project that you're entering in the zip code for the exact area of that home or that project. And we can see there's tons and tons of items here. They already have quantity, unit, material, labor, just tons of information already associated. So we really want to save you time. We don't want you having to individually input all of these lines and all of their data. So that is why it's here. But we still have tons of ways that you can edit if there's something that's a little bit different that you need to account for. And right off the bat, we have our estimate name. So this is created from Houzz. So if I needed to come up with my own new name, I can definitely do it that way. And I can always add a due date in the top left corner too. So if I scroll up to that little calendar icon where we have due date, that's just the date that I want my client to approve that by. And we have all of these items here, but if I use different wording on any of these, if I want to rename it, I can certainly do that. And just click on that little blue check mark, and that will save that. We have the quantity field that I can update as well. Unit type, we already have these here. So for our US users, we'll see pieces, hours, linear feet, square feet, and yards. So just remember, if you do change this unit type, it will not change the material or the labor cost. So if you need to update that accordingly, you can always click into the box and do it yourself. So again, these numbers are created from the general information from that zip code. But if I need to update the cost here, I can put in my own custom amount for both material and also my labor. And the next line that I have is markup. So I can go ahead and type in a specific dollar amount for this line. So if I wanted that to be $5, great, I'll click that checkbox. It's going to be a lot of work to manually do that. So we want to save you time. So what you can do here is click on markup at the top of my document, right under add items. I'm going to click on markup and I can type in a specific amount to apply to my whole estimate here. So if I wanted to apply 25%, I'll click done, and now automatically that's applied to my whole estimate. So it saves you so much time. You don't have to click into each line individually. It'll already be there for you. And if I keep scrolling to the right, it'll show me my total, and the final column is tax. So we can set this per item as needed. We have none, material, labor, or both. So it's up to you, the item that it is. So you can definitely set that up as you need to. And if I look to my right, we have an activity stream. So you'll see this on all the documents that I'll be going over with us today, but it's a really great tool. It's a way to timestamp all the work that you do and for your clients to have just anything that they do as well. So I can see the estimate created date. When I send this, that'll be a new entry. When my client opens or approves this, that will be a new entry. So if you or your client ever have questions down the road, how much is this going to be costing, or when was that sent? When did I approve that? You'll have all that information on the right in our activity stream. And let's say there's a few too many items here. We have lots and lots of information on our estimate that maybe I just don't need. Really easily, we can remove items or the whole section just by clicking on that top left box. And now at the top of my estimate, I have remove items. So I can click that and it'll get rid of that whole section, or I can individually click on items and just click on remove. So that's how we can get rid of them. And if there's anything in here that's missing that I need to send, we can add items by clicking that add items blue button in the top right corner, and this will show me my parts list. So all of our GC users will have this right at the top. I have favorites. So these are any items that I commonly use that I'm going to add to a lot of my estimates, so we can have those right at the top. But I can also scroll through all of these different categories and subcategories. So I can go ahead and click on that plus sign to add any of these missing pieces that I want to add here to my estimate. And if I want to add something to my favorites area, just click on that little gold star, and that will be added to my favorites. And we can also search for items here too. So let's go back. Let's say I need to add a window here. You can see all of those different items, and go ahead and add my window in. And if there's still something missing, still something you're not seeing in our total gallery, we can create a new item. Just click that blue button in the top right corner, create new item. And I can call this, my piece, if it's a window, if it's demo time, anything like that. I can search through all of my categories, select a category if it's custom or a product, the vendor with it, pricing details, let's say it's just one, unit type is piece, and material cost, we'll put 10 cents, create. And now this is a new item here on my estimate, and it's also saved to my gallery. So I can use this again and again on future projects. And I'll just clear out of this, click on that X in the top right corner. And right now we're at the bottom of my estimate. So we have a few totals down here. We have markup, so you can see how much markup you're making on this estimate, material and labor. We have tax, and right now it's set at 8%. but you can click on that little drop-down menu. If you have any other tax amounts or tax rates, you can have all of those to choose from, or you can also add in a new rate. So I would just click Create New at the bottom, and you can add in that new tax rate. So if it's a new area, you can go ahead and add that in. And taking us down to the bottom left corner, we have Files. So anything you add to the File section will be visible to your client, so just keep that in mind. But the files will allow you to add just about anything. If you have photos or a contract or anything that you want to share with your client, you can upload it right there. And we also have terms and conditions. So this is a great place, of course, to put your terms and conditions. So I can manually type that in, or I can click on My Templates in the bottom right, and I can create templates for my terms and conditions. So if you have commonly used jargon that you will say for phase 1 versus phase 2 of your project, or an entire demo versus just one room, you can create all of those as templates so you can use them again and again, just save you so much time. So to do that, I'll click Create New, the blue button in the top right corner, and I can create my own wording here. I can title this, maybe just my T and C for now, save and add, and that will be my new template for my terms and conditions. And something else that's kind of cool, if I click back into my templates, if I go to those 3 dots on the right of any of my templates here, I can set this as a project default. So if I'm going to have the same terms and conditions for every estimate, no matter what, you can set that for each project default or for every message in this project, and that'll be already there for you. Another thing we can do is edit the template or delete the template. So that's all there. And at our very bottom left corner, we have our memo. So if you wanted to say anything a little bit more friendly, hey, thanks for working with me. Please let me know if you have questions. That can all be communicated in our memo. And now I will take us up to preview and share, that big blue button in the top right corner. And this won't send right away. It just gives me a quick preview so I can see what this looks like before I send it to my client. And there's a ton of information in the top right corner that you can choose to share or kind of keep to yourself. So all of these little blue boxes in the top right corner are what you can turn on or off. So right now, I only am showing my category pricing. So that's why my client's just seeing the name of the category and the total price. I can click Show Detailed Breakdown, so they'll see all the names of the items. Detailed pricing will show all the prices with those items. Quantity and unit type, if that's something that you want to share with the client. And this next one, Show Markup Breakdown, you'll see this is already turned off. By default, we do not share the markup with your client. But if it's something that you want to turn on, you're very transparent and you do share, I'll go ahead and click on that box. And now that's something that my client would have visibility to. And then finally, we have Require an e-signature. So this is my favorite part about our estimates. It's really a big favorite with a lot of my professionals I work with. If I go all the way down to the bottom, you'll see terms and conditions, memo if I had one, and now that gray box is where it's going to require my client to e-sign this. So no matter if your client's on a phone or if they're on a computer, they will have to sign this in order to approve and move forward with your project. So it really just gives you that security of knowing that your client is signing this. It's going to help you, down the road if there's a disagreement or something that comes up, you'll have your client's signature right there on this estimate. So it's just going to be a really great way to kind of keep yourself protected and know that you have the security in sending this out through Houzz. And in order to send this, really simple, I can have my email up top, add in a subject line, enter in my message for my client. I can even send a copy to my email if I wanted to have that. And then once you confirm and send, that'll send to your client's email. But if you wanted to have a copy for yourself, or if your client wants a hard copy too, we would just export as PDF, that white button underneath it, and then you can print it out from there. So that's kind of how we get started with our estimate. Before I move on to the next phase, do we have questions or anything I can help clarify?
I think we've actually got most of that, but keep the questions coming. These are all really, really great. You know what? Just kidding. We just got a question. Is there a way to delete a draft of an estimate?
Yeah, great question. So if you wanted to delete it, let's see, we can just go up, or actually, no, that's not the right way. That would be for declining it. We could just go back to projects in the top left corner, and we don't have delete, but we have archive. So I'll take us to our whole estimate list, and then I can click on this estimate and any others that I need to archive. So I would just click on that left box and then click on archive. So we have archive in case you needed to bring this back to life for any reason down the road. So that's kind of why we have this as an option. Great.
Wonderful. And then we have a couple more questions, and I think this one is relevant for the whole audience. So Patrick asked a great question about credit card fees, and obviously being conscientious of that and how to offset that to the client. So that is something that we're in the midst of building into the system to have an offset. But for the interim, what you could do is mark up your markup percentage by 3.1%. to offset that credit card fee. So just be conscientious of that. That's the kind of the workaround for now. I know those credit card fees can get expensive. Michelle also asked a question about not seeing template options. So the templates are specifically built off of our library. So the library is for our builders, our GC customers who have that particular software. So if you don't see that option, that's a different type of software solution. However, if you do think that that is actually something valuable for you, where you would actually use that library of parts, reach out to us, let us know. We can absolutely help. And then our last question from Erin. So Kristen, she asked, can you edit an estimate after it's sent to a client?
Yeah, great question. So you can certainly keep on editing it. Once this has been approved, though, it will kind of lock all of those changes and updates that you've made. So if you have changes to make, I'm actually going to take us into a change order in a little bit here, but that's where we would make any of those changes to an already approved estimate. Great question. All right. Is that all we have so far?
Yep, I think that's it.
Sounds good. Okay, so I'm just taking us back into that estimate that we were working on. And actually, this is the one I was working on a little bit earlier. Let me take us back into that one. So going back into the project, clicking on estimates. And you can see up top, everyone, I'm clicking on this little status filter, so I can go ahead and click on that just to kind of filter out seeing between approved, draft, decline. So that's another great little tip that we've got here. And once I get into that estimate, I'll show where we can approve this. So let's say that I'm side by side with my client and we're ready to move forward and approve this. I can click options in the top right corner and approve right here. And it'll give you a little verbiage, upon approving this estimate, your client will unlock the ability to create invoices. Would you like to continue? So you can cancel or approve right from there. So I'll go ahead and approve that. And now this will have this entire estimate approved. And another thing that we can do from options is save this as a template. So if I scroll on down, I can save as template. So if this is something that I'm going to commonly be using, I can go ahead and call this whatever I want to. Click save, and now this will be a template for all my future projects that I can use again and again. I can also duplicate and edit this. I can export as PDF if I wanted to print this out. Preview and share is that blue button that we looked at a little bit earlier. So that's everything that you can do from that top right corner. So now I have my estimate. It's been approved. Let's say that I'm ready to start collecting payment. In order to do that, we'll select the items that I'm ready to invoice for. So click on that box in the top left corner, and I'll click on Create Invoice now at the top of my estimate. And kind of like I said, the invoice is the way that you collect payment. It's the way that you're going to receive your income from your client. So I'm going to see all those items that I selected. And just like the estimate, you still have the ability to change the name of anything. If I wanted to come up with a custom title for this invoice, we can still make all of those changes. And if I scroll to the bottom, this will allow me to add as many payment phases as I need. So right now we just have one, but I can click schedule a payment. Let's say I wanted to do 3 phases or 4 phases. You can have as many as you want in here, and you can name these. So if I wanted to call this my phase 1 or my products or anything like that, you can come up with custom names. And if I click into amount, I can choose between my dollar amount or my percent. So if I wanted to do 25% for all of them, all the math will already be done for me. But if I have a custom amount in mind, I can go ahead and just type in how much I want my client to pay on this first payment. We have payment methods. So check, cash, bank transfer, and credit card, that would be done through the system. So let's say my first payment, I only want my client to pay by credit card. But then on all of my other payments, I'm giving them all options. So you can customize these per phase. And we have our payment terms here. So maybe my first one will be due on receipt. The next one will be net 15. My following one I could do custom and do, in the future, a few months from now. So totally up to you and how you want that to all work. And I'm seeing this little log payment button to the right of my payment. So if you already accept payment or if your client's going to pay you outside of the system, we can log payment to show that my client's already paid me. So I'll click log payment and go to the payment method, how they paid me. So let's say they paid me by check. I can type in the reference number or even say, client paid on 2/17, the payment date. And you can send your client a receipt with that bottom left corner box. So they will have a record for themselves as well. And go ahead and click save. And now at the top of our document, we'll see that this is showing partially paid because I already recorded payment for my first phase. And if I go over to the right, I'm looking at my activity stream. It'll also show me that manual payment received of $50 on February 17th. So it keeps everything updated as those payments happen. And then when I'm ready to preview and share this, click on that blue button in the top right corner. This will show me that preview. So it looks pretty similar to the estimate. It'll have all of the items and the details, all my information in the top left corner. It will show to the client that this is partially paid because I recorded that partial payment. And we still have all those boxes in the top right corner. So up to you what you want your client to see on the invoice. If I only wanted them to see category pricing, just keep it nice and simple. I can leave it like that, but you can always turn on more of these options. And then on the right, the client will see all the scheduled payments. So they'll see that first payment for $50 has already been paid, and they'll see the due date for all of the other installments. And then again, to send this off, I'll go ahead and confirm and send, or I can export as PDF if I wanted to have a hard copy of this. And that is the way that my client will be able to receive this and pay this. And I'll show us how we can set up our payment terms in just a little bit here, but just kind of as we're working through our documents, let's say that there was something that changed, from that original estimate. There's been a change of shipping, or maybe my client changed their mind on something. I'll go back to estimate, that blue button in the top left corner. And from there, we'll be able to create our change order. So taking us back. The screen's running just a little bit slow here. So if there's, the full document that changed, I could just click on that top left box and create the change order from there. But if it's only a certain section or a handful of items, we can then again just click on those sections or those items, little boxes. And then at the top of my document, I'll go ahead and click on Create Change Order. So the change order, again, is a way that you'll be able to account for any changes, if it's an increase in price, if it's an increase in quantity, or anything like that. This is where we'll be able to make those updates. So our change order will have all the original items. We'll see planned, and then underneath it is the updated. So I can say, changed due to client needs, anything like that. And the updated line is where I can make any of those updates. So if the quantity has increased, we can put that in. I can update our material cost if that might have gone up by now. We can put in labor as well. So any of the things that are changing. If I wanted to input a higher markup, we can do that too. So whatever is changing. And at the very bottom, we have add change order fee, that blue text. So especially if it's something that is changing due to your client's needs or something that's kind of an idea of theirs, we can add a change order fee and type in your custom amount. And this is a super common practice. I see a lot of my professionals do it just to make sure that there's not any money left on the table because of a change, and also to kind of account for the inconvenience if it's something that your client is now needing. So totally a common practice that I see a lot of my professionals do. And at the very bottom, we'll be able to see the updated cost versus the planned cost. So you can kind of see right there visually what has changed. We can add files to this, terms and conditions, a memo. So if you have terms and conditions for your change orders, that's a really great idea that you can create a template for. And right ahead, I'll go ahead and click preview and share in the top right corner. And this is the way that I'll be able to send off my change order. And you'll see all of our change orders do require a signature in order to move forward. So it's going to require your client to sign this and also to pay. So you'll be able to make sure you're collecting payment right there for any of those new updates that happen in your project. So that's kind of the way that you can account for any of those new updates and make sure you're getting paid for them. And then, oh, sorry, there's a question.
Yep, there's a couple questions. So could you, Kristen, tell us all the different types of payment that are accepted through Houzz, and what are the fees that someone may need to be aware of for those types of payments?
Yeah, perfect question. So we take ACH or bank transfer payments and also credit card. All of your bank transfers will have 1.2%, and credit card payments have a 3% processing fee.
Love it. And then actually back to like the parts and like the library, Julie had asked, can we edit or delete items we have created in our own library?
Yeah, let's go ahead and we should be able to do that. You would go to our left-hand panel that pulls out, and we can go to the parts library and delete them from there if we needed to. So if I click on library, let's go to my favorites. Let's see. With my screen being a little silly, but you should be able to click on these three dots from the right-hand side. There we go. And we can delete from there. So I personally wouldn't recommend doing this if you might be using it in the future at all. But if you know 100% you'll never use it, go ahead and delete it if you need to. So just click on those three dots to the right of the item.
Awesome, wonderful. And then Kristen, we kind of have a unique question from Robert, and I don't know if you have a best practice for this one. Can change orders be used to update an allowance for an item?
let's see, I'm just trying to think what the best way for that would be. So just to kind of account for a change in how much something would be, it sounds like.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the case, then exactly. Our change orders, you can update the cost or the quantity for any of those things. So you can update how much that would be, and your client's able to pay on the change order. So just like the invoice, they would be able to pay you on the change order and kind of account for that higher amount or whatever that change is.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah,
Thank you,
to
Kristen.
me, really anything, if you want to change it, you're going to do it on the change order. So if you wanted to change, from a $5,000 allowance for marble to a $7,000 allowance, and that's definitely where you would do it.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Cool. So I have just a few more things to go over. I'm going to go over our purchase orders and our payments. So I'm right back in my invoice right now, and I'll go ahead and select the items that I'm ready to make my purchase order from or for. And again, our invoice is our record of money in, our purchase order is our record of money out. So we're going to need both of those documents just so my accounting and everything is kind of kept up to date. So I'm selecting the items that I'm ready to create my purchase order for. Then I'm going to click on that Create PO button in the top right corner. And I can select the vendor for this, but a lot of our professionals will also use a purchase order to account for their subcontractors or somebody that they're paying out on the project. So keep that in mind too. If you have a subcontractor who's, kind of helping out doing some work, you could also create a PO to show your record of paying them. So that is always something you can do here too. So I'm going to go ahead and click Create Purchase Order. And on the top left, we'll have the vendor information. So if you accidentally selected the wrong vendor or if you need to update their information, I can click Edit Vendor Details on that top left box, and you can update from there. So website, description, vendor type, here's where we would differentiate between vendor or subcontractor. I can add categories, the contact info for my vendor, default payment terms, any additional info, if you have, maybe a login information or just something to kind of keep in mind for the type of products or services they provide. And you can even add attachments. So that's how we can edit that vendor info if we need to. The ship to address will be my client's address, but I can also click edit. And from here, I can update that maybe if they've moved or if I type that in a little bit incorrectly. I can also click on the drop-down menu next to my client name, and I can choose from my project addresses. So I can add a new address here. And then at the bottom left, we have three cool things. So I could set this as my default billing address or the shipping address for this project. Or you could click that bottom left box to save as a company address that's going to be used on future projects. So if you have a warehouse, an office, a home, whatever that you're going to commonly be using as a shipping address, you can go ahead and add that in and make that selection so it's always there every time that you go to create a purchase order. Okay, and then over here on the more details square, we go to our purchase order date. So let's say maybe that's going to take place on Friday. I can set that up. The document owner will be any teammates that I have from my page. And then the payment terms, again, you can choose from due on receipt, net 15, 30, 60, or custom. And then if I scroll down, I'll be able to see all of the items on this purchase order. So I can add a description here for my vendor. I could also add a shipping side mark if that's something that they've given me or that I'm going to provide there. And then on the right-hand side is how I would log payment. So if I'm paying a subcontractor or if I just want to keep record of how much I've paid my vendor, I would click Log Payment, that white button on the right-hand side. And this is going to say, in order to log a payment, you must mark that this has been billed. So I can set this up as billed, choose the amount that I'm paying. I can do the total amount or just partial. The payment method that I paid my vendor or my subcontractor with. the reference number, and the payment date that took place. And then once I create this, it will show that amount has been logged and paid against my PO. So it shows paid $10, balance is $7.10. So we've got that all listed out here, and I'm sure your numbers will be much higher. This is just my kind of fake demo account here. And just to show you one more thing, on the right-hand side, we have our order tracking. So this is something that you can use just to kind of stay on top of things, see where this is going to be in the status. So if I'm still waiting for the quote, if it's been ordered, back ordered, en route, delivered. So we have all of these statuses that you can kind of toggle between and keep you and your team updated. So that's what we've got going on here with our purchase order. And before I move on to our final stage of setting up your payments, are there questions or anything I can help with on the document side?
We do have a couple questions. One is, real quick, do purchase orders sync with QB?
Yeah, that's a great question. For right now, with our core and our GC platform, we have our expense documents, or excuse me, income documents. So that would be your invoices, your estimates. We're working on that phase right now, but we just want to make sure that you have record of, hey, I've been paid. That's the most important part of your workflow. So that's what we have right now. And POs will be something that we're working on in the future.
And if you think about it, you're going to have a record of your payout in QuickBooks anyway, from where your bank, reflects the payout. So hopefully that won't cause, too much of an issue.
Totally.
Next question was, does a PO reference back to materials versus labor cost allocated to the project? Basically, he's wondering if he can get a statement that's going to show his profit and loss.
Yeah, great question. I mean, it will show the items that you're kind of putting out in that way. So if it had a labor cost or, excuse me, a material cost, that would be showing up in the total. So you can kind of use the two documents of your invoice versus your PO kind of side by side to see how much you're putting over into that column.
And then the last one is going to be, is there a way to get a statement for the account so you know how much is still owing and how much has gone out? I'll kind of preface this as for how much is still owing. There's a couple different places. I'm going to cover the client dashboard, which is going to tell your customer how much is still due. But do you want to answer the rest of it, Kristen?
Yeah, definitely. So I know we're kind of working on financial reporting, making that something that we do want to have a little bit more visibility for our pros. I know Mike will be covering some of those areas, but kind of like we saw on my estimates tab earlier, we'll be able to see all of those totals. So material, labor, markup, tax, and that kind of thing. And for right now, I would just kind of use your invoices and your POs kind of side by side to see what you've been paid and what you have paid out on the PO. So definitely more to come within our Houzz Pro system though.
When I think the status would change to paid as well. So you could always like look at your invoice tab and you'll see which ones have been paid there and which ones haven't as well.
Yeah.
So that will kind of give you a real quick indicator.
Yeah, we've got that great little status here, like this purchase order from the invoice I'm seeing are partially paid. So you can kind of get a quick glimpse of them that way too. At the top of our PO tab, I'll see total purchasing sum, total paid, and the balance. So we have some of those as kind of quick reference numbers to see against your invoices also. Is there anything else, Mike?
Looks like those are the only two.
Awesome, thanks. Okay, one last thing I'm going to go over with you all. So in order to get paid, we're going to need to set up our payment details. So we can do that from the top right corner, going into Houzz Pro settings. And we'll go into our account square on the left-hand side and then click on payments. So this is where I will go to set up my payment details, the bank account that I want money going into from my clients. And when I come here for the first time, we'll get this great little kind of setup details. Something really important to know is that our payments are going to be paid to you in 2 to 3 business days from the day that it was paid. So if I already have payment details set up and I go ahead and receive money from my client where they pay on Monday, that would most likely come to you by Wednesday or Thursday or so. So we want to make sure that you're getting paid really fast. You don't have to wait for the next time you see your client or for them to put a check in the mail or anything like that. This is really going to make it easy for your clients to pay you and for you to get your payment really, really fast. So all you need to do is click Get Started, and that's going to automatically send an email to the email associated with your Houzz Pro. So check that out. It would come to you in about 5 minutes or so, or even quicker than that. And from that point, you'll just verify your identity. Go ahead and enter in your bank account information. If you have a personal account or a business account, you can add either one of those in. And then once you're set up for payments, your client will be able to start paying you by credit card and ACH. And just kind of like we talked about earlier, the ACH bank transfers will have a 1.2% credit card fee or transaction fee, and the credit card will have a 3% transaction fee. And like we talked about earlier, you can increase the markup if you wanted to account for those fees as a way to offset that to your client. So that's definitely a great way to kind of make sure you're getting your full payment and having your client pay you really fast and easy with all of our online options.